If someone were to create a list of must-see movies for their girlfriend who didn't grow up watching too many movies, what should be added to that list? My wife, who grew up without a TV, says watch referential movies. Things that are referenced constantly. Like Karate Kid, Terminator, Lord of the Rings, Batman, Shawshank Redemption. The Bond movies, anything that's been spoofed or callbacked and referenced 100,000 times. It apparently makes everything else funnier and make more sense. I'd add the Star Wars saga and Raiders of the Lost Ark. By all means, watch all the indie movies if that's your jam, but I think the first one is referenced in pop culture by far more often than the others. Also, Ferris Bueller. I just showed that to my middle schooler last year for the first time. I was in 8th grade when it came out, and it has stood the test of time. I enjoyed it just as much as when I was in school, and he laughed his head off in all the expected parts. We just showed it to our 5th, 9th and 12th graders. Not only did they like it, but there was so many times where they went "that's from this," on where we had to point out that those pop culture references started here, as opposed to this just being another example of them. Don't forget Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I took a medieval studies course with a professor who was passionate about accuracy in medieval films. He didn't stress it, but he loved it. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is both the definitive and perfect medieval film. We thought he was joking, but he wasn't. The castles are accurate. The excessive jokes in some scenes are accurate to medieval literature's sense of humor, and the general writing the plot as we go along style feels a lot like classic tales such as Beowulf. Even the inaccuracies are pointed at as jokes, such as the pile of dirt joke. There are two medieval films everyone should see, Lord of the Rings and Monty Python. Edit. Thanks for the gold, and thanks to Reddit for making it possible to know who sent it. I'm a medievalist, and I haven't yet met a medievalist who doesn't love that movie. Edit. I also want to vouch for Laughter as medieval. Tolkien was a professor of Anglo-Saxon at Oxford, and he wrote a really important essay on Beowulf called The Monsters and the Critics that changed the way Old English literature was read. I'm convinced that movie has some anti-girlfriend magical effect. Every woman I've romantically been into has hated that movie. May, then you haven't found the one yet. Me and my girlfriend watched 1 to 50 highest rated films on IMDb. I would honestly recommend that. We loved it so much we are currently making our way through 50 to 100. That's so smart. I didn't even think of that. If you wanted to add one more layer, weight it like 60% movies in her lifetime, 30% 25 years before and 10% from before that. Like first 10, the 6 top rated from 1995 to 2020, the 3 top rated from 1980 to 1995, top rated from pre-1980. The logic is some movies are timeless but not all, so weight ones from your time more. Watching the great movies from a generation before really help you see a lot about them and where they are coming from, in my experience. And lastly, there are the timeless classics that, if nothing else, give you context for how movies have evolved in addition to understanding more about older generations. I actually use this when I get a new boss or mentor. I ask them what their favorite movie and book are through normal conversation, then make it a point to watch or read it. They feel listened to, and more importantly, it gives you insight to their worldview. I like this idea. I recently watched Citizen Kane and I didn't care for it. It is super old obviously, and I realized there are about 1,000 movies I have seen from the modern era that recycled the plot. In modern times, certain things like cinematography and modern special effects have come so far that it is just not fair to compare a good 2019 movie to a 1941 classic. I get that it's a good movie, but I don't think I would watch it again. I'll rewatch Spider-Man though. No shame. Better yet, use flickmetrics.com and sort by rating. It averages both of the Rotten Tomatoes scores, IMDb, and Letterboxd. Also, on the first page will be a movie called Grave of the Fireflies. If you value your tear glands, you'll never watch that movie. Grave of the Fireflies is an absolutely beautiful, heartbreaking movie that I will never watch again. That seems great. It isn't based on your interests or hers, you'll each have some favorites and awfuls, and it's a shared experience with some outside influence, direction. Clue. It's timeless and hilarious. Buck watched that a few months ago for the first time in years. It's just so good. Flames. On the side of my face. Breathing. Breathless. Heaving breathes. Mrs. Peacock was a man? It's so interesting to watch now with all 3 endings. When it was in theaters, each showing was randomized between ending A, B and C to replicate the experience of the game. When you watch it on whatever you're watching it, it shows all 3 in succession and it's a Tim Curry joyride of hilarity and insanity. Let them watch whatever, just don't be disappointed when they don't react to a movie the way you did. I cried after watching Shawshank Redemption. My so said that it's a slow and a boring movie. I love Shawshank, but I didn't know that it was the type of movie you were supposed to cry over. If you really want a tearjerker, watch The Green Mile. The original Lion King? I only say this because my husband had never seen it until recently, which blew my mind for some reason. Did your husband not have a childhood, lol? Spirited Away. That movie is an experience. I'd recommend what, to me at least, are the big 4 Ghibli films: Laputa, Nausicaa, Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke. Do not watch Grave of the Fireflies. I cannot stress that enough. They had to make Totoro just to balance it out. Ditto on not watching Grave of the Fireflies. I'd also recommend Howl's Moving Castle, which my second favorite Ghibli film after Spirited Away. Back to the Future. This is too far down the comments. Studio Ghibli. Only Yesterday is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's such an underrated gem. Too bad my girlfriend had to watch it by herself because we weren't together by then and lived far from each other. Now we're gonna get married after this mess is over and I want to rewatch with her on day. So I think I've seen too many movies. These are all essential unless denoted. For honorable mention. I sort of want to add to this but I'm getting hungry. Essential directors. Spielberg. E.T. Close Encounters. Jaws. Jurassic Park. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Saving Private Ryan. Schindler's List. Minority Report. Honorable mention. Lucas. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Star Wars. A New Hope. Star Wars. The Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars. Return of the Jedi. Tarantino. Pulp Fiction. Inglourious Basterds. Paul Thomas Anderson. Boogie Nights. There Will Be Blood. Punch Drunk Love. Magnolia. Christopher Nolan. The Dark Knight. The Prestige. Ridley Scott. Alien. Blade Runner. Gladiator. James Cameron. Aliens. The Terminator. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Titanic. Stanley Kubrick. 2001. A Space Odyssey. Doctor Strangelove. The Shining. Full Metal Jacket. Paul Verhoeven. RoboCop. Total Recall. Starship Troopers. Sanderson. The Royal Tenenbaums. The Life Aquatic. The Grand Budapest Hotel. Rushmore. Moonrise Kingdom. Rob Reiner. This is Spinal Tap. The Princess Bride. When Harry Met Sally. Robert Zemeckis. Back to the Future. Contact. Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Forrest Gump. Tim Burton. Edward Scissorhands. Ed Wood. Beetlejuice. A Nightmare Before Christmas. Martin Scorsese. Taxi Driver. Goodfellas. The Departed. Other drama, action, adventure. The Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Silence of the Lambs. The Godfather. The Shawshank Redemption. The Matrix. Dark City. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Fried Green Tomatoes. Pleasantville. Philadelphia. The Road Warrior. Mad Max. Fury Road. The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Yojimbo. The Seven Samurai. Romance. You've Got Mail. The Notebook. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more Reddit content like this, please subscribe and like this video. I guess I will see you in the next one.